Hello everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Marios and today we will be talking about generators. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe, and the main goal of this channel is to provide content around web development. As of now, I have only covered topics such as React, user interface, and JavaScript. However, I'm also planning to explore into other concepts like continuous integration, continuous delivery, testing, APIs, microservices, etc. As I said, today we'll be talking about generators, and in a previous tutorial I covered iterators. So it would be good for you to watch this tutorial first and then join me on this one, because as we will see, generators highly depend on iterators, so it would be better for you to grab the whole concept around how each one is connected. I created a list of 7 points that I believe they are very important for us to answer during this tutorial. So we will slowly start with the first one. So what is a generator and how to create one? So most languages have functions, and those functions, when they are executed, return single outputs and use in any place within the code. Generators allow us to return multiple outputs from a function, and we can recode that function multiple times. So for example, you may create a generator at the top of your script, call that function, return an output, do something with that output, and at the middle of your script, recode the function, get another output, and do something else. So as we will see, generators temporarily, they have state, and we can use that state for our own benefit. So let's jump into our code and see how we can create one. The definition of a generator is very similar on how we declare a function in JavaScript, and with the only difference being that for a generator we need to include an asterisk after the function keyword and also yield some values. In our case, I will create the get generator, and I need to include an asterisk after the function keyword and also yield some values to it. In that case, I will yield the value of 1, 2, 3, and also return the value of 4. To call the generator, it's how you normally do for a normal function. So you just call the function. And if we log the value of the generator, we see that we get a generator object. This brings us to our second question, which is what methods are available from a generator. And to find out, we need to check the prototype chain of the object. And if we use the getOwnPropertyNames and check over on 2-level dips over the generator object, we get an array with 4 values within it. So a generator is a class, and we expect from it to have a constructor, but pay attention on the next, return, and throw methods, which are available from the object. So for this tutorial, we will be paying attention on the next method, which is what we can use so that we start yielding values from the generator. To demonstrate it, I will call the next method. And as you see, I get an object with the value and done properties. And in the value, I get the value that I yield from the generator. And the done property is a Boolean flag that indicates if the generator has been terminated or not. If I keep calling the next function, I see that on the second attempt, I get a similar object with the value of 2. And if I call it for a third and a fourth time, I get the value of 3 and 4. So what essentially means is that on the first call, we yielded the first value from the generator. On the second call, we yielded the second value from the generator. On the third call, the interpreted moved on the third line and yielded the value of 3. And on the last call, we returned the value of 4. The first 3 calls, they share a common property, which is that the done property is set to false, but the return value has a done property to true, which means that the generator has been terminated. No matter how many times I will keep calling the generator, it will always return an object with the value of undefined and done to true. So that indicates that the generator has been terminated. Until now, we have managed to manually call the generator. However, we need to find a way how we can automate this. And if we look closer on the return value from the next function, we see an object with the value property and the done property. So if you watch the previous tutorial around iterators, you will recognize that this is an iterator result. So that means that a generator is also an iterator. And if we plug it into a for of loop, we will see that we will log all the values available from the generator. Since we know that the generator is also an iterator, we can test it against some other features of the JavaScript language. A common example is the spread operator, which accepts an iterable. So if we test it against the building string and spread it, we see that we create multiple characters within it. If we move into creating a new array, adding the values of 1, 2, and 3, we recreate a new array with all the values within it. And if we use the generator, we see that we get all the yielded values from the generator. If we want to expand even more, we can also extract the function using this simple.iterator, since we know that an iterator needs to implement the iterator interface. And if we try to manually call the next method within it, we get an iterator result. And if we want to inspect the value within it, we append the dot value and we get the value of 1. If we call the iterator multiple times, we get all the values of 1, 2, 3, and 4. And if we keep calling it, we get undefined because the generator has been terminated. We managed to answer the third question in my list, which is how generators are related to iterators. Now let's move on to the fourth question, which is how to use a generator to create an iterable. In the iterators tutorial, we show how we can extend objects to start implementing the iterator interface, and I will copy paste the same code. I will use the range class that we created. So I set a range class, and within the constructor, I set the starting and ending values. And I need to set those values within the state. I will also set the simple.iterator implementation. So the function needs to return an iterator, and an iterator is an object with the next property. The next function needs to return an iterator result. I need to set the static value locally within the state of the function. And I also need to set the ending value. So if the starting value is less than the ending value, then return an iterator result with the done property to false and the value the pre-increment of the starting value. Otherwise, return an object with the done property to true and the value to be the starting value. I initiate my class, setting it to the variable r, and I also set the values of 0 to 5. And if I iterate using a for of loop, I get all the values starting from 1 to 5. Now, the goal is to replace the example we have using a generator. So what I need to do is to append an asterisk in the front of my function. So that will change the function to a generator. And I will remove the code that we have within it. And what I will be doing is that I will use a for of loop that will keep checking the starting value. If it's less than the ending value, then yield the starting value. I have a mistake that I need to fix. So if I change the start to end, I see that my iterator works within the loop and I get all the values. Now let's move with the next question in my list, which is bidirectional communication using .next method. So generators, they are not only used for yielding values, you can also use them to achieve bidirectional communication between the person who is calling the generator and the actual generator. So in our case, we'll be creating a getName generator, which will be asking for the name of the person who is calling it, and on the next call, the person who is calling it will pass a parameter with the name of it, that parameter will be stored within the state of the generator, and the generator will yield a hello message including the name of the parameter. I set the generator with the name getName, and on the first yield I add the string of what is your name. So I need to store the output of the yield into a variable with the name, and on the next call I want to yield a string of hello including the name that we store within the name variable. If we test it, I call the getName generator, and on the first call of the next function I see that I get what is your name, and if I recall the next function and pass a parameter to it, I pass John, I get an object with a value of hello John, and as you see on the first call we executed the first line within the generator, and on the second call we stored the variable of John into the name variable, and then we return hello John. Let's move on to the next point in my list, which is asynchronous generators. It's very easy to extend normal generators to be asynchronous. The only thing that we need to do is to include the async keyword at the front of the function, and by doing that the generator will start returning promises. To demonstrate it, I will loop within a certain set of values and yield those values, adding some delay to them. So I will set a for loop which will be iterating from 0 to 5, and I yield the value of the index. I also want to add some delay, and to do it I will create a promise that uses the set timeout function and add a delay of 1 second. We call the generator and add it in a for a wait loop. And log the values. I see that I get the values from 0 to 4, and I also see that there is a delay of 1 second for every iteration. You may be wondering how you can use a generator, and the reality is that there are not many applications of them. But as far as I know, the async await keyword, it's a combination of generators and promises, and another example is a case of pagination. So usually front-end applications, they load a certain subset of a resource and they give an option to the user so that they can navigate within the page and fetch more information. So when the front-end application gives an option to fetch more information, this can be implemented using a generator. So at the point that the user clicks on the next button, the application can fetch more information, and that also saves some network bandwidth rather than fetching all the information from the database. So this would be our example. We're gonna create a mock database, and on different calls we're gonna fetch different information from the database. I will start by creating a mock database. I initiate an array of size 100, and I will fill it with the values ranging from 1 to 100. If I log the values, I see that I get all the values starting from 1 to 100. Now I need to set my generator. I would set an asynchronous generator. The name of it will be getNumbers and accepts a single parameter, which is the size. So that would be the subset of data we want to fetch from the database. I initiate the page, which has the value of 1, and I use a while loop to iterate over it. In each iteration, I pre-increment the page, and I use a promise to await and fetch some information. Within the promise, I need to include some delay, so I use the set timeout function, and I calculate the delay using math.random multiplied to 1000, So this means that the delay will range from 0 to 2 seconds. I need to calculate the offset, which is the page minus 1 multiplied by the size. And now I can extract the subset that I want. So I call db.slice, set the offset, and the second parameter will be the offset plus the size. If the dataset has a length of 0, this means that I will reject the promise and I raise an error with the message number not found. In any other case, I resolve the promise and return the dataset. Now I need to initiate my generator, so I call my generator passing a size of 20. I call the next function to fetch the first resource, and I get the subset from 1 to 20. So if I call it multiple times, I expect to get all the values from the database and at some point to get a numbers not found error. So as you see, I get all the numbers from 1 to 100 in sets of 20s. And at some point at the top, I get the number not found error. This was the end of this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. More tutorials will be coming on different topics as well, if that's something that you want me to provide through the channel. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. And until next time, enjoy your day and speak to you soon. Thank you.